Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what a modern disaster management course actually looks like. We're going to break down what they teach, why the whole focus has shifted so dramatically, and why, honestly, this kind of education is more critical than ever for our future.
To really get why this stuff matters so much, you've got to understand the sheer scale of the problem. Let's just take a country like India as an example. A full 70% of its farmland is prone to drought.
And get this, on top of that, a staggering 60% of its entire landmass is vulnerable to earthquakes. And we're not talking minor tremors in some of those areas.
But wait, there's more. 12% of the land is prone to floods, and another 8% is susceptible to cyclones. When you start to stack these numbers up, you realize we're not just talking about isolated incidents. We're talking about massive, overlapping vulnerabilities.
You see, these aren't just numbers on a slide. They represent a constant, real threat to people, to economies, to entire communities. And it all boils down to one single crucial question that drives this entire field of study. When the worst happens, are we actually ready?
Okay, so let's dig into this, because how we answer that question has completely changed. For the longest time, the approach to disasters was basically just reactive. Something bad happens, we clean it up. But now, the whole mindset has done a complete 180. It's all about shifting from reaction to proaction. This proactive model, right, it's the absolute heart of any modern curriculum. It's all about getting ahead of the curve. So instead of just focusing on relief efforts after the fact, the goal is prevention. Instead of only worrying about reconstruction, the new focus is on mitigation and long-term preparedness. It's about shrinking the risk before it has a chance to become a catastrophe. And, this quote from the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, it just nails it. The key to being proactive isn't just about having better tech or more money. It all starts with knowledge and education. It's about giving communities the tools they need to build resilience from the ground up. All right, so imagine we're all sitting in day one, session one of this course. Where do you even begin? Well, you start with the very systems that we all rely on every single day to just live our lives. We're talking about something called critical infrastructure, or CI for short. And just like it says here, these are the absolute lifelines of our society. This isn't just about roads and bridges. It's this whole interconnected web that we completely depend on. I mean, just think about your day for a second. The lights you switched on, the clean water for your coffee, the phone in your hand, the bus you took to work, all of it depends on this critical infrastructure. If any one of these things fails, it can bring everything to a screeching halt. This quote about Hurricane Katrina is a perfect, if tragic, example of how these systems are all tangled up together. You see, the levees failed, which led to the flooding. Then the roads were destroyed, which cut off any help from getting in. Then the power grid went down, which meant the water treatment plant stopped working. It's what they call a cascading failure. One domino falls, and it takes the whole line with it. Okay, so once you've got a handle on what's critical, the next logical step in the course is figuring out what's at risk. And this is all about learning how to systematically look at hazards and figure out where the weak spots are. This whole process usually kicks off at the big picture level, the macro view. You're looking at maps like this seismic map of India to get a bird's eye view. It tells you in broad strokes which parts of the country are exposed to what kind of hazard. And then, from that 30,000-foot view, you can zoom right down to the street level, the micro view. And this map here is a fantastic example. It's not just showing a general flood zone, it's showing the exact potential depth of the water and pinpointing exactly where critical things like electrical stations are located. This is where analysis becomes truly actionable. So you see, figuring out vulnerability isn't just about looking at a map. It's a really methodical three-step process. First up, exposure. What's actually in the danger zone? Then, number 2, susceptibility. If a disaster hits, how likely is that thing to break? And finally, the big one, you evaluate coping capacity. If it does break, how well can we handle it? And that last one, coping capacity, is really just a fancy way of asking, how resilient are we? It's built on these 4 key pillars. Is the system robust enough to take a punch? Is there redundancy, like a backup generator? How easy is replaceability? Can we fix it fast? And finally, preparedness. Do we have a plan, and have we practiced it? So, this all leads us to the final part of the course, and honestly, the most important one. Taking all this theory, all this analysis, and actually doing something with it.
It's about turning knowledge into action to build a genuinely more resilient future. Look, this stuff isn't just theory for an exam. This kind of education leads to real, tangible projects that save lives. In coastal communities in India, for example, it's led to installing solar backups for water plants, building causeways that can withstand a cyclone, and strengthening buildings so they don't collapse. And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. You can build all the strong walls you want, but the real foundation of a disaster-resilient society is its people. When individuals get it, when they understand the risks and know what to do, they become the most powerful defense there is. So as we wrap this up, you can see how a course like this walks you through the whole process, from understanding the huge scale of the problem, to analyzing the specific risks, to taking real-world action. And it leaves all of us with a pretty important question to think about. Now that you know what goes into teaching resilience, how resilient is your community?